Hey guys, Mustached Tom here to review the movie Mufasa, The Lion King. So obviously, as soon as this trailer was announced, everyone was pretty much asking why this movie even exists. And it's a question that's fair enough, and obviously, the obvious answer is obvious. It's money. They want money to produce more stuff. But what I am here to do is review this movie as objectively as possible, which I think in our line of work as reviewers does take into consideration that we shouldn't just say and have it the end-all be-all be that this movie shouldn't exist, therefore bad. I don't think that's good reviewer material. I don't think that does us any service whatsoever in the reviewing community. So I'm actually here to review the movie proper, what's in the movie, the context. It's a sequel, well, a prequel to The Lion King, the live-action one, live-action. But we are still here to review it as objectively as possible, and I'll save you some time, it's actually not that bad. But we'll go into the finer details. So, the movie starts off with speaking about all the kings of the past, and initially I thought this was going to be the biggest issue with this movie, is that they weren't going to take that line at its context. Now, what they end up doing is showing what makes a king in this context, and I think that that's actually more important than this sort of idea that you're just born into kingliness. And that is sort of the concept of the movie, while also following Mufasa. So yes, we start the movie off with Simba speaking to his tribe, or his, followers. Meanwhile, Timon and Pumbaa are tasked by him to take care of Kara, which is sort of where The Lion King 2 happens. It follows her. But that isn't quite this story, obviously. And Rafiki comes by as the rain is starting to pour down. So he decides he's going to be the one to tell her a story to pass the time as this storm is going through. And that is what leads us to the focus on Mufasa and him as a cub, his mother singing the first song as the rain begins to pour in the flashback. So he makes his way into the water, not knowing that that the water would eventually pour down, due to the traumaticness of the impact of a rhino, I think it was a rhino or a hippo, some larger animal, hitting the dam. Mufasa gets shunted into the water, and thus is brought all the way downstream. He eventually arrives at meeting Taka, as we'll learn later on becomes Scar. So that was his original name. I mean, Scar is a bizarre name to have, so this isn't just, Mufasa's backstory, it's also simultaneously Scar's backstory, if you really think about it. I mean, that we do get a sort of semi-answer in The Lion King 2, but this is what definitively gets us there. So he mentions a secret, and then he gets prompted by Mufasa, who tells him that he's gonna get eaten by the crocs. So he eventually manages to barely get there. And Scar kind of saves him, though it's more so the mom who comes into the frame. I believe her name is Aisha, if I heard that correctly from the movie. and she decides that she wants to take him in. However, once brought in to the father, who he says he wants to focus on royalty is made by blood, and blood alone. You can only be a ruler by blood. Again, sort of cementing the idea that, what Pride Walk were to become would be substantially different from that. So, we begin. He determines that they will have a race, Mufasa and Taka, and if Mufasa loses, he will die. But if he wins, he will survive. Now, interestingly, that early on, or Taka, I'll call him his given name until, I'll try to keep doing that until it's proper time to call him his given name at the end of the movie. But Taka falls behind on purpose as they're making their way back, allowing Mufasa the victory, and they sing together about wanting to, each of them apparently wanted a brother, so they see each other as such. And during this little musical number, they skip time through the song. This is very much your Hakuna Matata, but, a much more oriented song around brotherliness and it not being by blood, so that has already shifted the paradigm by a significant margin. So, anyways, so the father pulls Taka away. He's meant to stay with the males, and Mufasa is guided back to the females. Now, if you know anything about lions, it's the lionesses that hunt, interestingly enough. So he's actually the one getting the better, lessons, if anything. At least if you're following, what lions do. We're following their biology, so I'm following their concepts, their rules, and their behaviors. So he's actually, getting the better treatment here, if anything. So, indeed, Aisha trains him to look beyond, to use his ears to see beyond seeing what his vision is sort of allotted to. And he kind of begins to nail this ability here and now. But we can see slightly off in the distance that Taka overhears him about him not wanting to be king, which is very contrasted with Simba. Remember, Simba sang about wanting to be king, but wanting to be a different type of king. So we're already playing different aspects against each other from the original movie. However, during their process, they get attacked by these white-furred lions. And Mufasa comes in to the defense. Ubasi, I believe his name is, the king of the Taka's father, is sort of further behind, so he's unable to make it. So Mufasa is the one who is already sort of there. But the king of the white lions takes him, or attempts to take on his own. Meanwhile, the father of Taka tries to implant the idea that deceit is the tool of a proper king, and that has stuck with him far past, obviously we know what Scar does, at least further down the road. But he does some deceitful, he kind of bizarrely tells the truth, but it's the way he does it is very deceitful to an extent, depending on perception, but we'll get there. Anyway, so the father sends Taka away, and he offers to have Mufasa come along with him. The idea being is that they are to be pulled off so that they can start their own tribe and make sure that the bloodline, aka Taka, who he believes is the proper king, can find a new future for them. But the White Lions begin their attack shortly after they leave. And it's the White Lion who begins to talk about there can only be one Lion King, and begins to sing about the circle of life and what it means within the kinghood. As the other lionesses begin to encircle the area. Meanwhile, the other two, Mufasa and Taka, get trapped at the edge. Taka pushes them down into the water, where they meet once they get out of the water, they shortly thereafter meet a female lioness named Sarabi, aka, if you know The Lion King already, you would know that is Simba's mom. So obviously, Mufasa and her are going to end up together. So we're just filling in that detail now. Anyway. So she's actually the one who has Sazu, the bird, with them. And he is the scout, so he gets passed down to Mufasa, obviously. Though he does have an expression that, I feel like this happens with writing sometimes, is that people forget that animals don't have the same appendages as humans. So, just, I'm willing to point out when a flaw is a flaw in the writing. He mentions the word hand. He says, on the other hand, birds don't have hands, and neither do lions for that case. He should have said on the other paw, or on the other wing. Something to allude to the idea that he would have no idea what a hand is in that context. Or unless, I guess he could be talking about Rafiki, but that doesn't make much sense. Because he hasn't even met Rafiki yet. So, that seems out of the loop currently. But, speaking of Rafiki, he is actually about to enter the story, if anything. So his family banishes him, as they find him talking to the trees and the spirits, the very vibe of him off, so that's why they banish him in the first place. So he ends up joining the trio of Mufasa, Sarabi, and Taka. And so they begin their journey to find the land of Malele, I believe it's called. And so Mufasa speaks with Rafiki, and Rafiki already appears to know Mufasa's fear of water, and seems to know, again, a lot more than he leads on. Very Rafiki-esque, if we're following his sort of abilities. So, as they begin to set their journey together, Rafiki sings about their journey on the road, and this seems to be a more group song, as Sazu sings as well, and then Mufasa and Sarabi join in, and Taka is the last among them in this song as they're journeying together. But the White King, Lion King, is updated about their situation. Here, as they're continuing their journey, we learn that Taka has feelings for Sarabi, but he has no idea how to talk to her. So he asks Mufasa for assistance, And Mufasa guides him, and he kind of talks to her pretty poorly. He kind of mistreats the words a little bit from what he was told, but I digress. So, as the white lions are catching up, Mufasa tries asking for help with these, I believe it was the elephant herd. But Sarabi instead decides to knock down a hive to cover their tracks by having the bees scare off the elephants and them creating a mass stampede to hide their, where they are. So it's Mufasa that ends up saving Sarabi as she gets knocked down. However, he gives Taka the credit here. So he's trying to play wingman to the best of his ability, currently anyway. Meanwhile, while the stampede is happening, Rafiki's is holding on to a branch, and it manages to save his life. The branch falls off, and it becomes his walking stick that we see. So, keep the answers of things simple, as it were. So Mufasa goes up to Rafiki again, asking why he can confirm these visions, and he says it's only purely based off of a feeling that he has. And that is something very human, interestingly enough. We as humans very much thrive on feelings, despite certain people saying facts don't care about your feelings. Humans are driven by feelings. That's a fact. Oops, I destroyed that entire narrative in one sentence. How about that? So there you go. That's how you destroy the narrative of facts don't care about your feelings. Well, feelings care about facts, and that's a fact. So facts do care about your feelings. It's inversed. It's like an infinity symbol, if anything. So as they continue traveling and try to avoid the white lions, they are now in a snow area, so they're leaving tracks. So Mufasa tells Sazu to hide their tracks by flying above and kicking, or dusting the snow above to below to cover their tracks. It is here where it's his intuitive nature to do these sorts of things, where Sarabi's paying attention to these things, and she's starting to eye up on Mufasa, and she starts to put two and two together that he was the one who saved her. She is the one who's able to put that together on her own volition. So she clearly makes her choice here and now, and Mufasa kind of sort of falls in line with that as well. And they sing their love song, essentially. And, this is essentially your Can You Feel the Light, Love Tonight song, essentially. So obviously we're taking inspiration from the first movie. Obviously everyone has mocked that song, at least in terms of oh, it's daytime, the obvious joke you can make about that song as far as context. So as, this song, as far as it's arranged, at least makes sense in the environment they are in. They're not singing about tonight, they're just singing about each other, so it already has a better sense of where they are, and more so about singing about, each other. So, in a weird way, I guess I'm kind of saying, yeah, this song is technically better than Can You Feel the Love Tonight? And it's sung by the characters in the movie instead of a third entity that just comes in. And then they take over, obviously, the song, if you remember the movie. Anyway. So, of course, Taka sees all of this, so that's indeed what spurred on his hatred, is a lady. And you know what? Sure, that works. That totally makes sense. Now, obviously, a lot of people would say, oh, Scar's, the whole animated Scar anyway, he's flamboyantly gay-coded and, all of that. And I remember this behind the scenes of the original movie where he's like flirting with one of the female lionesses, one of the important ones. So it's clear that, you know, we can gay code characters, but that doesn't really matter. If they're not gay, they're not gay. And so Scar, by that logic, isn't gay. And that's okay too. I think it's about time we just finally just said that. You know, if we want gay characters, then write gay characters. Have them be gay. Don't gay code anything any longer. That shit's so old and stupid and unnecessary, I feel. Like, aren't we past that gay coded dumbness? Like, aren't we? I mean, I guess not. It's 2024 and trans stuff is still being banned, so I guess we're, you know, slow as turtles, and fuck me if I'm, you know. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, damn, we are slow when it comes to progression of treating people with respect and, you know, anyway. So obviously the White Lions are trapped, but Scar tells them the truth, but he's currently deceiving Mufasa, which is what I was referring to, by writing their location out, guiding the White Lions to them, and having them guide the, you know, them to this land that they're trying to find. So they indeed arrive at this Malele that they have been seeking. Rafiki finds this tree that he's envisioned in his dreams, the one that we see in the movie, the big one. But shortly after the White Lions arrive with the crew, and obviously upon this, Taka is revealed through the king, the White Lion King, that you know, Taka has sort of put this location, so Mufasa now has to fend off this attack. But he goes to his, you know, his animals, the ones that are getting ready to leave, and tells them that they each have their own merits, their own strengths, their own purposes, that not all are equal. Yeah, you know, not all are equal in the sense of, like, they can all do the same thing, but rather, they're all equal because they can do different things, but their different things is what makes them unique, but equal to each other in different ways. So that is something that I do feel like is actually pretty powerful. I think this speech actually is really great. So, you know, I'm a little baffled, because I know people are already saying, like, oh, you know, as I mentioned in the beginning, oh, you know, why do we even need this story, Mufasa? Like, you know, he had the Lion King. He set his, you know, we set his story in motion. You could have just did the Lion King 2 proper. But I disagree. And after watching this movie, and especially this speech in particular, I have to disagree even harder. Because this is something that I feel was missing in the original movie. It's like, yeah, we see the lions lead, but we don't understand why they're leading. I mean, there's an obvious reason in that they're lions, and that they would just be the, at least animalistically speaking, why they would be in charge. But why do the other animals bend to the will of that? Anyway, they could leave. Why not leave, right? And it's here we finally get an answer that I feel is actually very compelling. Mufasa guided them to an answer, that they all bring a uniqueness. Each animal species does. And he didn't even want to be a king up until this point, by the way. But nonetheless, as the rock face that they're hidden within begins to give way to form Pride Rock, it wasn't as it always was. So it becomes Pride Rock in this movie, as it would turn out. And during this fight, Taka is sort of sitting back and watching Mufasa and the White Lion fight. It is here where he gets where he's thinking about, as they're fighting, thinking about the ways of their past. And for a brief moment, he moves in and gets attacked. This is where he gets his scar. So, he at least has the scar now, by the White Lion. So they end up in fighting, and Mufasa and the White Lion end up in the water, where he uses his feelings and Aisha's training to essentially push him into this incoming falling rock that plummets him, the White Lion, down. And Mufasa is able to surface. Scar does the paw thing, the infamous paw thing. He did that earlier in the movie when he was first in the water, where the mother came in. It seemed to suggest that he was going to hold him there almost to a degree. And this time around, he barely just kind of pulls him out just as Sarabi is making her way in there. So, in a way, again, Taka sort of semi-saves him a second time. But it's Mufasa that walks out with Sarabi, obviously. And as I mentioned, he says he doesn't want to become king, but the others are saying, you saved us. It was you. You guided us to stay, to fight. You've given us a reason. He became a leader. And yeah, that's true. Leaders aren't born, they're made. That's something that has been something I've alluded to, and I'm glad that this movie actually recognizes that it's not necessarily by blood, which is sort of what was insinuated beforehand. And it makes the way we understand Pride Rock function, at least in the first movie, makes sense. Because again, why would all the other animals outside of, they're just lions and that's it? That reason alone seems a little bizarre, right? Because obviously lions can eat other animals and so on and so forth, so again, what would give them incentive to stay? And now we finally have a reason that makes sense. So I'm gonna argue it. I think this movie deserves to exist. I know, again. But it makes sense. What else can I say? Anyways, Mufasa is granted a sight that he thought he would never see. He sees his mother. He has Sarabi. And Taka tries to apologize, and Mufasa can't even bear to say his name after everything that has happened. So Taka says, you can call me by Scar, so that I will never forget what happened. So he now takes on that moniker, Scar. And so we see Mufasa sit atop the new Pride Rock. As we cut back, because Kiara's being told the story simultaneously. We see them back and forth, both roaring into the sky, Kiara seeing Mufasa in the clouds, very akin to the original animated movie where Mufasa did this. I don't think that happens in the live action The Lion King, so they made it happen here instead. Again, I could be misremembering. I don't remember much of the live action Lion King movie, to be honest. But we learned something new. Kiara gets a brother, which, I've seen The Lion King 2. She does not have a brother in that, so interesting choice to... obviously that was set up way earlier in the movie, but, Okay. So she just has a brother now, I guess. Uh, I, you know, I don't know if this movie will succeed because, this is going up against Sonic 3 and so on and so forth, and, but I will say the obvious. I do think that people who were asking for, or not asking for this movie, I think a lot of people would have actually been more, at least a little bit more open to the idea if it was animated. And I genuinely believe that. I genuinely believe that if they came out and the trailer was animated, and it was still called Mufasa, the Lion King, the same exact title, I think people wouldn't be giving as much crap about this movie as they're giving it now. I genuinely believe that still, and I think that's a bit unfair. Again, I'm judging the movie based on its story merits, not how well it looks, to be crystal clear. And again, I think in terms solely on story, that's my focus as a reviewer, is story writing. I think this movie deserves to exist. Now, yes, I can simultaneously argue that, sure, more people, as I just suggested, would be interested, or more interested, if it was animated. I recognize that, yes. So yeah, I think this movie, is fine. But I would dare say, I think it's a 7 out of 10. Again, I think it's fine. Story-wise. And again, I get it, the whole, yes, I know. So there's that. At any rate, there we are. So what's next? Are they going to do The Lion King 2 in this format? Who knows? I don't know. I mean, will they make enough money to do that? Probably. I don't know. Again, it seems very split. But obviously, if they did make it, let's assume they make enough money, right? And they get to make a Lion King 2, a proper one. Obviously, now since we already have Kara, I guess she just has a brother now. That's the only change from the sequel, that's present, at least to my knowledge. If anything, I remember her having... No, because I'm remembering the Lion Guard, because they're... in the Lion Guard, I don't remember their names, because it's been too long since I've seen the Lion Guard, but, I remember the female having, this female posse with her throughout it. So I thought, is this, alluding to the Lion Guard, this brother character? I don't know. I thought the Lion Guard took place even after the Lion King 2. Then again, I'm not too familiar with the timeline when it gets that far in the Lion King lore. But, yeah, anyway. So I do think they could just do the sequel. She will have a brother. I don't know what difference that will make in the sequel, in a sequel. But yeah, I think the idea could generally be the same. You the love story of Kiara and Kovu, obviously. But who knows, again, if they'll get to that and whatnot, but, well, I guess it's a wait and see. Anyways, that's my review of Mufasa. It's not that bad. It's actually pretty decent. Again, writing-wise. So that's my review, and if you ended up enjoying it, then please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, make sure to check out those links in the description. One will head over to my petition to help out smaller YouTubers, second to my PayPal where you can help support me and my channel directly, and third to my Discord server where you join, collab, chill, and do all that cool stuff for free. And until next time, everyone, bye-bye.